Spring training is right around the corner, and now that we know what this Red Sox team will pretty much look like heading into 2023, let's take a peek at a few storylines that fans certainly will be watching this season.
You are Locked On Red Sox, your daily Boston Red Sox podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode of Locked On Red Sox is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. I'm your host at NESN's Lauren Willand, and pitchers and catchers report next week. The whole Red Sox team soon will follow after that. Then we'll have the full team workouts. Baseball season is very, very close. So today we'll chat about some of the storylines that are going to be on people's radars going into the 2023 season. And we're going to keep talking storylines as spring training gets going. There's a lot of them. We could not do them all in one episode. We could, but it would be an hours-long spectacular. And we want to be able to talk about storylines for the next few weeks because there's probably going to be a lot more that come out of spring training and as opening day gets closer. Plus, Jake, he's in Arizona right now, helping out on Radio Row for the Super Bowl. So, he needs to weigh in on these storylines as well. So, the first storyline here is Chris Sale. We know what the last 3 years have been like for him. So, this is a huge year. He could become the ace of the staff once again. He has not been the ace of the staff in what seems like a very, very long time because when Nate Eovaldi was here, he kind of took that over, especially when Chris Sale was out with Tommy John surgery and dealing with other injuries. Nate Eovaldi really kind of filled that ace role that the Red Sox don't really have right now. Chris Sale could also return to some sort of the old Chris Sale that Red Sox fans saw in 2018 and throughout his career before he came to the Red Sox. But of course, the biggest fear kind of surrounding Sale is his ability to stay healthy. He's only made 11 starts since 2020, and at one point last year, there was a stat that came out that said Rick Porcello had made more starts than Chris Sale, and the last time that Rick Porcello pitched was in the 2020 COVID-shortened season for the New York Mets. So that kind of puts it into perspective just how much of a struggle it's been for Chris Sale to stay on the mound. He's missed a lot of games since 2020. This will be a really, really big spring training for him. He is expected to be full go, ready to go, no restrictions. And the Red Sox do need an opening day starter. Obviously, I don't think really anyone's named their starter yet. And it's assumed with some teams who the opening day starter will be. But this could be really anybody's job to lose. You could go in there and Alex Cora could say it could be Brian Bayo's. It could be James Paxton's. I think people do expect it to be Chris Sale. And they're probably not going to name one until March. And that March 31st is opening day for the Red Sox. Sale very well could be that guy if he rebounds the way he believes he will. And we've talked about his work ethic before. Like he's hard on himself. No one is harder on Chris Sale than Chris Sale. He wants to be out there for the Red Sox, for the fans. He said during winter weekend that he really feels like he owes the Red Sox fans something. And I understand why he feels that way. When you get signed to an extension, you expect to make more than 11 starts. Fans expect you to be more than what he's been. And you look at it's just a string of crap luck with the injuries. Tommy John, I felt like that was inevitable. I feel like that was coming at some point. I do wish he had it sooner, but I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling him what the best course of action is because I don't know. That is so far out of my realm. I don't know. I couldn't even tell you the first thing about discovering when to have Tommy John surgery. The comebacker to the pinky, and there's nothing you can do there. The breaking of the wrist when you fall off your bike, the stress fracture in the rib. So yeah, it's just been a string of bad luck for Chris Sale, bad injuries, and hopefully in 2023 we see the old Chris Sale come back, and not the Chris Sale that gets injured. So there is a lot of I feel like there's a lot of pessimism around Chris Sale, and maybe not pessimism, but just a lot of caution because of what he has not brought to this team in the last 3 years. But I do have high hopes for Chris Sale in 2023. I'm not getting my hopes up. I mean, there are projections out there that don't even have him for predictions this year because he hasn't pitched in so long and what it feels like. But Sale can be that guy, and I do have a lot of faith in that. He'll put in the work to get there. I think that his work ethic is second to none, and I think that he's going to be hard on himself, and he holds himself accountable. I do think that goes a long way, but you still want to see the results on the mound. And I can already hear it now. If he gets injured, if he goes on the injured list, if he gets removed from a start, it's just going to be a whole, oh, this guy's fragile. Here we go again. Chris Sale, this extension is just a bust. I can already hear it. And it's possible that it could happen. But if anyone is due for a bounce back season, it is Chris Sale, and he's going to work hard to do it. And he's one of the bigger storylines going into the 2023 season because you have no idea what you're going to get from him. You could get a slight Chris Sale. You could get 10-win Chris Sale. You could get the injured Chris Sale. We don't know. And sticking with the pitching, another storyline here is the starting rotation. Who is going to make up the starting rotation? We've talked before on Locked On Red Sox that there are 7 guys for 5 spots. There's Chris Sale, Nick Pivetta, Brayan Bello, Tanner Houck, Garrett Whitlock, James Paxton, and Corey Kluber. And in my mind, I look at this list and I think Tanner Houck and Brayan Bello are going to be the 2 guys who are going to fight for roster spots. Chaim Bloom has said that he does not want to move Paxton to the bullpen. So we can probably count on James Paxton being a starter come opening day. Now, we have to account for his health too. We have no idea what we're going to get from James Paxton when it comes to in terms of pitching, health, stability, reliability, all of that. So maybe Paxton has a short leash. Maybe he has a longer leash because he hasn't pitched in so long that they truly do want to see what they have from James Paxton. So you count him in the starting rotation. Garrett Whitlock is going to be a starter. He's been confirmed as a starter for 2023, maybe with a full offseason and a spring training being stretched out as a starter, now coming off the surgery. It could make a world of difference, and hopefully he can be a solid starter for the Red Sox. We all know how I feel. I want him in the bullpen, but if he can be a serviceable starter and he can be a 3 guy, sign me up. Let's go. Let's get him on the mound right now. But Tanner Houck has never really been able to find a groove as a starter. We saw him last year really start to find a groove almost as the closer of this Red Sox team, and he really seemed to kind of figure it out as a longer reliever and also in that closing role for the brief time that they had him in that closing role. So this is also a big spring training for him. I mean, this is a big spring training for Brayan Bello and Tanner Houck and Garrett Whitlock. It's a big, really big spring training for a lot of these guys. I feel like these 2 are going to be the ones who not necessarily are the quote unquote easy moves to move to the bullpen or start Brayan Bello down in Worcester. But I just think these are the 2 that are already kind of on the outside looking in just from last season, just from maybe Brayan Bello needing more time in Worcester. And that brings me to Bello. Is he going to be the complete odd man out and start the season in AAA? He was so dominant in Worcester last season before he got called up to the big leagues. And I was of the belief that more time in Worcester certainly would have benefited him. And that was out of his control. The Red Sox had no depth. They had no other options. They had no answers to any opponents. And they brought up Brayan Bello because he was doing fantastic with the Woo Sox and he was working quick. He was just dominating through lineups. And it would get to about the 6th inning when he would start to struggle in Worcester. But those kind of growing pains come and go with rookies and people who are supposed to be really good, like these top prospects. So you look at Brayan Bello, and again, I'm still of the belief that time in Worcester will benefit him. But if you're ready to commit to him, he's been working with Pedro Martinez. If he shows you a really strong spring training, there's going to be really, really tough decisions to make. But I do think right now that Brayan Bello is kind of the odd man out, and he's the one fighting for a spot on the opening day roster, not someone like Tanner Houck. I mean, a lot can change, right? Spring trainings hasn't started yet. Pitchers and catchers report very, very soon. But there are so many questions just surrounding these pitchers. Will Garrett Whitlock end up back in the bullpen at some point? And then does that kind of pave the way for Brayan Bello to get back into the rotation? Does James Paxton not give you what you want? Is he not healthy? Does he get hurt? Does Chris Sale get hurt? You can say the same thing. Does Corey Kluber get hurt? Nick Pivetta? What is the leash on some of these guys that if Bello does start in Worcester, how long are these leashes? How short are these leashes? And how quickly does Brayan Bello return to Boston if he does indeed start in Worcester? And now the bullpen does seem a bit crowded. So you think of, oh, are they really going to put Tanner Houck back in there? But there's Caleb Ort, there's Ryan Brasier in the pen. What's the shelf life on those guys? Chaim Bloom truly believes in Ryan Brasier, and we'll talk about him in the second segment of Locked On Red Sox. But is there going to be a shorter leash with him, because he did end 2022 very, very strong. He had a very strong September. But if that doesn't translate over into 2023, are you just going to let him go the entire season? Are you just going to DFA people? Ryan Brasier does not have options to go to Worcester. So that's another big question mark. A lot of question marks have to do, I mean, there's a ton of question marks with this team, but when you look at the pitching, it's crowded. There's 5 spots, and it sounds like they're not going to do the 6-man rotation, which I'm completely fine with. And I think that Brayan Bello, for as strong as he has been and as solid as he was when they figured out that he can be a longer reliever after he struggled to kind of find that groove as a starter. But that's not what he is. He's not a longer reliever. He's a starter. He's going to be dominant. He's been compared to Pedro Martinez, but you want to give him that opportunity and that chance to show why he is this prospect that people love. You need to give him the opportunity to continue to get those constant reps in Worcester and just build that arm strength, build the confidence, and bring him to MLB when he's 100% ready. And some of these we're going to have answers for before the season starts. Some it's a wait and see thing. It's a waiting game and see how things play out. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. So what's your starting rotation look like for the 2023 season? I say, then this is in no particular order: Chris Sale, Nick Pivetta, James Paxton, Garrett Whitlock, and Corey Kluber. I think that Tanner Houck ends up in the bullpen. Brayan Bello starts in Worcester, but I want to hear what you think. What do you think this rotation looks like? You can even give me it 1 through 5, or you can just throw 5 guys in there and just hope for the best. But coming up in our second segment of the Locked On Red Sox podcast, big pitching theme today. The Boston Globe's Alex Speier talked to Ryan Brasier down in Florida and talked about surviving the DFAs, the ugly 2022 season. I'll tell you what he said just after I tell you about FanDuel, because this year, the only app you need at your Super Bowl party is FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. The Super Bowl is this Sunday. You have Chiefs, you have Eagles. I know here at Locked On, we're ready for the big game. And we're also very, very excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On, because FanDuel, like I said, is the #1 sportsbook in America. And if you're new to FanDuel, that's even better. They have so many great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. So if you're a first-time bettor or you're a new bettor like myself, it is so easy to use. It's laid out for you. You will feel like a professional bettor just by using FanDuel. You can download FanDuel right now so you can bet Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything, from the money line to the point spreads to who will score a touchdown. So you have a little bit of everything. Personally, I am a big money line person. I also love prop bets. They always have the fun ones in there, the Gatorade colors, who will score a touchdown, who will score the first touchdown, anytime touchdown scores. It's all over at FanDuel. The FanDuel Sportsbook app is safe, secure, and super easy to use. And the best of all, you can get paid your winnings instantly. So join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/lockedon to claim your no sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. That's FanDuel.com/locked on. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. And after you're done making Locked On Red Sox your first listen, head on over to Locked On MLB Prospects to make it listen number 2. Host Lindsey Crosby, a prospect encyclopedia, and he's going deep on the MLB starts of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcasts. So we've talked a lot about Ryan Brasier in this offseason because he seemed like a lock to be one of the people that the Red Sox DFA every time they've had the opportunity to do so, and even many times last season as well. And somehow he's just stuck around. And Chaim Bloom has talked about it. He went beyond the ERA and he dug deeper into the analytics. But after Ryan Brasier spent a lot of the season, the 2021 season, on the injured list, and in 2022 having an ERA close to 6, you just thought, why is this guy still on this team? He's older. He hasn't really brought a whole lot to the Red Sox in a long time. And we've talked about Brazier and how he's made this team and him being part of the 2023 team. And like I said, Chaim Bloom, he's a big analytics guy. We know this. And that's what he said. He was looking beyond the numbers. And we will see if it's worth looking beyond those numbers when Ryan Brasier takes them out in 2023. But the Boston Globe's Alex Speier did get to chat with Brazier in Florida, and Brazier told Alex Speier that he appreciates the Red Sox having confidence in him, and he's hopeful to build on what he did at the end of last year because he feels like that he, quote unquote, figured out a couple of things. And this is from Speier as well. He said Brazier allowed 3 runs on 5 hits over 12 innings in 13 games in September with 13 strikeouts. He also held opponents to a .423 OPS. 10 of those appearances came against teams competing for postseason spots. So these weren't bad teams. I mean, the Red Sox were not a very good team last year, but he was good against teams that were destined to make the postseason. And there was an improvement in September because he did end the season on a high note. His ERA was just over 2. I think it was 2.24 or 2.25. And there clearly was an adjustment made. And he told Alex Speier, Ryan Brasier told Alex Speier that there were a couple of meetings and they kind of searched for what was working. And he stuck to what worked. And he stuck to what he had success with and was just thinking kind of what do I do to attack hit? What can I do to attack hitters that has worked and that can keep me in this groove of solid outings? And there's been a lot of hate on Ryan Brasier, and I have contributed to that. Jake has contributed to that. You've contributed to that. And, it's all over the internet. People are just wondering why Ryan Brasier still is on this team. And he said that people talk. There's nothing you can do about it. I've learned that. And he's absolutely right. We talk, Twitter talks. It's a big topic and another storyline that will have a ton of eyes on it in 2023. I do hope he can build off of his strong September because in August he had an ERA that was just through the roof. And then September, he really turned things around. So his September ERA was much lower than his August ERA. And that's what we wanted to see from Brazier the entire time he's been with the Red Sox. I feel like he hasn't always been this bad. And he's never been a lights out pitcher for the Red Sox, but I feel like he wasn't always this unreliable. And this kind of person, when he'd come in, I'd be like, oh my God, why Ryan Brasier? For the last 2 years, I've really felt that's how it's been with him. And I do hope he can turn it around, and he certainly could. He could prove everyone wrong and be a crucial part to the bullpen. Never say never, right? That's what they tell you. So Ryan Brasier, a lot of eyes on him, and a lot of people expect him to not be good going into next season. I certainly do not have a lot of hope for him. I hope I'm wrong, but I do not have high expectations for Ryan Brasier. And maybe if we just go into it and with low expectations, the bar is on the floor, right? Maybe we just go with lower expectations. It'll be a happier, more optimistic season. Expect the unexpected and you'll never be surprised, right? That's what Michael J. Fox said in Scrubs in season 3. And I've lived by it ever since. We have one more segment of the Locked On Red Sox podcast. As always, we'll end this show on the Mental Health Minute. So we talk about the importance of prioritizing yourself and making sure that you're doing things that make you happy. And one thing that's really worked for me, especially in the last few weeks, is giving myself what I call a non-negotiable during each day. So say I wake up tomorrow and I go about my routine and I say, today I'm going to give myself 30 minutes or I'm going to give myself an hour to sit down after I get home from work and read. I love reading, so this is something that very much works for me. So I'll come home, I will take my dog out, I'll feed her, I'll get her settled, I'll turn my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I'll set a timer for the 30 or 60 minutes, whatever I choose, and I'll just read. And I love reading. It's something that I've loved pretty much my whole life. I am always reading a book. I'm on my 3rd book already of the year, and it's truly helped me decompress from the day. I get lost in a good book and I feel like I'm relaxed and ready to kind of take on the rest of the night, whether that's make dinner, get my food ready for the next day, lay my clothes out, stretch, and just kind of plan the day ahead. And it's also been helping me sleep better. I love sleeping. I am somebody who is a big 8 hours a night kind of girl. And I wasn't always like that. I would just thrive on 4 hours of sleep and energy drinks, but I am not that person anymore. But I was doing those kinds of things because I was always a go, go, go kind of person. And I still am. I am always on the go. And if you're someone like me who's always on the go, it's also incredibly important to take time to decompress, even if it is for 30 minutes, even if it's for 20 minutes. And you have to tailor it to your lifestyle. So I'm not telling you to go out and read if you don't like reading, but You can go to the gym, go outside for a walk if it's not freezing cold like it's been here, but now it's starting to get unseasonably warm again here in New England for January. Sightseeing, nature hiking, whatever, basically just do something that you love and make that a non-negotiable every day. Just make it a priority because it's for you and it offers you some time to reconnect with yourself and kind of forget about anything happening or that had happened throughout the day. And it's just a good way to kind of get your night started after work. And it kind of sets the tone for the rest of the night. Like I said, it's also helped me sleep better. So do something every day, make it non-negotiable, do something that you love that fits your lifestyle. And hopefully it works for you. Hopefully you start to notice a difference. And hopefully you just put yourself first, because when you put yourself first, you're going to start to feel better. Thank you for making Locked On Red Sox your first listen of every single day. Please rate, review, and subscribe to Locked On Red Sox right here on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, the Odyssey app. Wherever you get your podcast is where you can find us. You can also find us on Twitter at LO_Red Sox. You can find Jake at Jake Iggy, and then me, Lauren, 3 Laws, Lauren with 4 R's. Be sure to check out all the other shows across the Locked On Network, Locked On Astros, Locked On Yankees, Locked On Blue Jays, Locked On MLB. Everyone does such a great job here bringing you baseball content, and now we're getting even more excited because pitchers and catchers are just right there. We can feel it. Baseball season is among us. And now that you've made Locked On Red Sox your first listen, head on over to Locked On MLB Prospects to make it listen number 2. Host Lindsey Crosby is a prospect encyclopedia. We've had him on this show before. He is wonderful at what he does, and he's going deep on the MLB stars of tomorrow. It's free and available wherever you get your podcast. We will be back later on this week. We'll continue talking about storylines. What storylines are you looking forward to? Let us know. We will talk about them. We're still 3 days a week here on Locked On Red Sox, but very, very soon we move back to 5 days a week. And there's probably going to be even more storylines to follow. But until then, have a great day. We'll see you next time. We'll end this show how we always do. Let's go, Red Sox.